Welcome to Panels and Borders. I'm Dominic, and this is Comic Back Issue. And this week we're going to be talking about another Star Wars comic. This is Star Wars Tales of the Jedi, Dark Lords of the Sith. 3 of 6. So this is part 3 in a 6-part series I'm doing, where I'm going to be covering this miniseries. And right away I want to talk about the cover here. And this is actually my second favorite cover out of the 6. It shows Qel Droma on the ground there holding Master Arca's robe, Jedi robe, and it's empty, indicating that his master has been struck down in battle and disappeared, much like we've seen what happened with Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original trilogy. And you can see they're in the middle of a battleground, there's fire in the background and smoke and the yellow sky, and kind of got that yellow tinge to the whole painting there with the highlights. Really fantastic cover. I really like this cover. And I just wanted to say that in the credits, it credits Hugh Fleming for the cover artwork. But the artist is actually Dave Dorman. Now, I can only guess that Hugh Fleming is a pen name that Dave Dorman used for whatever reason. Because I know artists do that sometimes. They'll use pen names instead of the real name on their work. But anyway, still a fantastic painting. I really enjoy this cover. I like the red Star Wars logo there with Tales of the Jedi, Dark Lords of Sith in black font. Great stuff by Dark Horse Comics. And here's the credits. Star Wars Tales of the Jedi, Dark Lords of the Sith. Tom Veitch and Kevin J. Anderson script. Chris Gossett pencils, Jordi Ensign inks, Willie Schubert lettering, Pamela Rambeau colors, Hugh Fleming cover art. And then here we have the classic Crawl Through Space, and this just basically covers what happened in the previous episode or previous comic, a Descent to the Dark Side. And here we see that the Jedi and the Republic are coming out of hyperspace next to the planet Deneba. And I want to talk about, this is a really great shot here that this story opens up on. All these ships are coming out of hyperspace into this planet atmosphere here. Chris Gossett does a really excellent job of making the ships really look old and ancient and battered. And they're not smooth, they're not slick. They got all these like industrialized pieces and bits and openings, things coming off of them. He does a great job of making this look like it is more ancient and more older and battered than what we've seen in the original trilogy. So that's one thing that really drew me to this miniseries, is his pencils, and the way he drew the ships really captured my attention. I really like the designs of this ship. As you'll see, like, there's nothing that looks sleek. There's nothing that's kind of like rounded off too much. It's like totally different from anything you'd see in, say, Star Trek or anything like that. Just looks like these old battered, space vessels. Really great shot there. I really like the opening shot of this comic. So here we are on the planet Deneba, and all the Jedi have come here for a meeting about what they're going to do with the Krath that have overthrown the government of the Teta system and taken over. And basically now it's being run by dark side users. So the Jedi and Republic are here on a meeting about actually how to handle this situation. Because the last joint Jedi-Republic mission to that system failed. They were overwhelmed by the Dark Lord, by the Sith users. The girl Alima, who could cast illusions using the dark side. So all the Jedi have gathered here except for one, Exar Kun. He is on the planet Korriban, where there is a great, gigantic Sith tomb on this planet. And so he's here on Korriban to look up and dig up more Sith secrets. And the bottom panel there, I really like. That's actually my favorite panel, I think, in this whole comic is, Chris Gossett does a great job of making this tomb, this valley here, just look immense. It just goes on until, and just kind of disappears off into the horizon. And Exar Kun is just like a little silhouette, up against it. So you can really get the size and scope. Like, this would be a great shot in a Star Wars movie. I think this would be fantastic if they actually put this type of a shot in a Star Wars movie. where they go to some ancient planet or something. Like, this would look good on the big screen. It has to me, this has a very cinematic look to it, this shot right here. Just looks awesome. And one thing, though, I want to point out about the story is, now, I haven't really read the other stories that lead up to this one. So the way Dark Horse did these is they did them in like a series of miniseries. So this was a sequel miniseries to a previous miniseries. So there's not really, this miniseries doesn't really explain why Exar Kun is looking and curious about the dark side. It doesn't really, the story just starts off, he wants to know about the dark side and he's looking for dark side secrets, but it doesn't really explain what his motivations are. Now, I don't know if he's in a previous miniseries and then his motivations are explained there, but being as this is like a miniseries, it should be, I think the readers or the writers should take into account that maybe the people who just want to pick up a one-off of this miniseries and aren't dedicated to collect all the miniseries, so this would be like one self-contained, like 6 episodes that would... and it would explain why he's seeking out this stuff, but it really doesn't. He's just curious for whatever reason. He's curious about the past of the dark side, and it's leading him down like this destructive path. So as he goes towards the tomb, you see all these like crashed space vessels and the bodies of old space pirates that have come there and tried to raid these tombs and stuff, past tomb raiders and that. And then the dark side of the Force is so powerful that it actually reanimates the dead, and they defend the tomb and they attack Exar Kun. Exar Kun, easily dispatches him with his lightsaber, and then he makes his way into the tomb. But he doesn't really want to go into this tomb. He's thinking maybe he should go back to his ship and rethink this. But then the evil spirit of Frida Nad collapses the entrance, so Exar Kun has no choice but to go forward. And now back on the planet Deneva, they're discussing what to do about the Krath invasion. So the Jedi are talking about maybe just using overwhelming military force to get rid of the Krath and liberate the Teta system. But Qel Droma has a different idea. He doesn't really think that's the best way because it could be a conflict that could be stretched out for years before they actually root out the Krath. He has another idea. He wants to actually infiltrate the Krath and become a member of the Krath and get rid of them that way, root them out by the roots and get rid of them, because even if they do overthrow the Krath and if any of them escape, they'll just keep spreading the gospel of the dark side through other parts of the galaxy. But then the other Jedi are forewarning Qel Droma that if he goes down that path, he could be tempted and it could end up even more disastrous because he could be led to the dark side of the Force. So they're telling him they're not really accepting his idea of doing this. And then back at the tomb on Korriban, we see this immense crystal that has the spirits of fallen Jedi Knights trapped inside this crystal being tormented. And then Frida Nad says maybe they've been tormented long enough and causes a collapse in the tomb. So we see debris come down as the tomb part of the tomb collapses and it breaks the crystal, annihilating the Jedi spirits that were trapped inside, but also crashing down on Exar Kun and shattering a bunch of his bones so he can't move, so he's there. Now he's stuck there dying. He calls out to his master, Vodobas, but his master can't help him. He's cut off from his master because the powers of the dark side is so strong here in this tomb. So as he lays there shattered, dying, Frida Nad tells him the only way he can save himself is he must accept the dark side of the Force, which he resists, but his will to live is like too strong. He wants to live because he wants to keep learning more and finding out more about the dark side, so he accepts Frida Nad's offer. And here we see Frida Nad uses the dark side to heal Exar Kun, and Exar Kun's body is put back together. All of his bones are healed. And it sends a disturbance through the Force all the way back to the planet Deneva, where Arca and Qel Droma can actually sense that something has happened to the in the Force. Something has happened. Something went on. This is kind of interesting that we actually see the dark side of the Force being used to heal someone in this capacity and bring them back from the brink of death, something you didn't see in any of the movies. The only time you've ever heard something even similar to this was in the prequels, when Darth Plagueis was said to have willed the midichlorians to create life. And as we remember the story that Darth Sidious told to Anakin Skywalker. So they can all sense it, and even his own master, Bodo Bass, can sense that something is wrong with Exar Kun. And then, as that's going on, the Jedi are ambushed, as ships above the planet were actually in league with the Krath, and they launch a bunch of escape pods to the planet. And as these escape pods crash into the planet near the Jedi, these fearsome battle droids emerge from them and start attacking the Jedi. And so an all-out battle has, broken out on the planet Deneba as the Jedi are ambushed. And these battle droids, I really like the way they're drawn. They look pretty fearsome. They look pretty intimidating, a lot better than the battle droids we've seen in the prequels. I was never really impressed by those battle droids because I found they didn't look intimidating at all. They look too much like Snoopy from Peanuts or something. I always call them the Snoopy droids. And they just get cut down like so easily by the Jedi. They never come across as any kind of a threat, where these ones in this comic actually do. And I wish that the battle droids in the prequels were more menacing looking, more like these ones. So we see that, Qel Droma is almost going to be taken out by battle droids in here, but his master Arca uses the Force to disrupt the circuitry of the droid, destroy it. And he saves Qel Droma's life, but then he is then stabbed through the back by a battle droid, and or blasted through the back, it looks like, by a battle droid, and Exar Kun then, Qel Droma then takes out that droid, and then his master lies dying, and then he fades away into the Force. And excellent panel there. I really like that droid, that scene, that's really good. And we see that he also fades away like Yoda did in the original series, or the original movies. And then here we are back at the tomb, and Exar Kun is still deluding himself, saying, I'll never turn to the dark side like you. But he now, since he's been brought back from the brink, he can now read, dark side hieroglyphs and things like that. So he wants to go to... Frida Nad tells him that an ancient Sith Lord named Naga Sadow had hidden Sith secrets on the planet, or on some of the Yavin moons. So he wants to go and investigate that moon, but then Frida Nad decides that the Sith spirits inside the tomb want to test Exar Kun once more, and so Exar Kun is attacked by these creatures. These creatures are like the guardians of this tomb, and then Frida Nad takes away his lightsaber, so he doesn't have his lightsaber to defend himself with. So he gets attacked by these creatures, but his ability to tap into the light side of the Force is blocked. He has no way to get his lightsaber back. So once again, he has two choices. He can either be torn apart by these creatures or accept the dark side once again to save his life again. So Exar Kun, he caves and he uses the dark side of the Force to draw his lightsaber back. And then he again lashes out with rage and destroys these creatures. And then the spirits then decide he is ready, Nad. And so anyway, he tells him to get your ship ready and head to Yavin. And then Exar Kun once again says, yes, but I'll never be tempted by the dark side like you've been. I'll never fall to the dark side. Where Freedom Nad only replies, oh, but you already have. You already have. So Exar Kun is rapidly turning to the dark side and is in denial about it. And now the story here ends with Qel Droma. He's, grieving over his master that has been struck down. And now he's more convinced than ever that he has to infiltrate the Krath and take them out. Now he's motivated by revenge. He wants to get revenge for his fallen master. And he's determined that he's going to go on his own and take down this evil. And Nomi Sunrider warns him against it. Please don't do this. This is not going to end well. Don't underestimate the power of the dark side. But he won't be persuaded otherwise because he's too overcome by grief by the death of his master. And so that's the third issue in this series, and it's just my thoughts on this issue. This was a pretty good issue. I really enjoyed the action in this one, and had some really great scenes of the ships coming out of hyperspace, and the battle between the Jedi and the battle droids were really good. And they really got overwhelmed there, and it was a great setup for the trap. And you can see in this one that Exar Kun is getting more and more turned to the dark side. So you can see that he's eventually going to become a Sith Lord. So but the one thing, I guess the one flaw in the story is it doesn't really explain his motivations in this story. Like, you don't really know why he wants to know all this, or why he's so obsessed with learning about the ancient Sith. They don't really explain that. I don't know, maybe it's explained in the previous miniseries, but I don't think it should have worked like that. I think it should somehow in this miniseries explain why he is so interested in the Sith, which they don't explain it at all. The miniseries starts off right away with him looking into his master's Jedi holocron and learning about Sith. So I don't really know. There's no motivation. Where the other Jedi, Qel Droma, there's a little bit more reasoning to why he's slowly slipping to the dark side. You can see events unfolding, so shows a little bit more his evolution. Now, like I said, I haven't read a lot of Star Wars comics, so maybe in a previous miniseries it explains Exar Kun's motivation more, but I think it should explain it in this series. But overall, still a great comic, and really enjoy the cover artwork. It's really amazing. And Chris Gossett's pencils are just fantastic. And so that's everything I've got to say about this comic. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think of this comic, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. And if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up. And I will see you at the next one.